Hello, everyone. I'm Bernie. Welcome back to the Ghost River Triangle Con. If this is your first time with us today, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. This is our final panel of the day, and it's our LGBTQ plus panel. I'm here with some incredible Erpers, and today we're gonna talk about some LGBTQ topics and representation on the show and just how Wynonna Earp has impacted all of us on our journeys. Um, so, whoever would like to take it away first,
Sure.
introduce
I'm
yourself.
Becky. I'm Becky, she, her, and I identify as lesbian.
I'm Abby, she, her as well, and I identify as gay.
My name's Noah.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's a-
You go.
Sorry. My name's Noah, she, her as well, and I identify as a lesbian.
And hi, everyone. My name is Izzy, she, her. I identify as gay, and then depending on how I'm feeling, I identify as a lesbian.
Hello, I'm Bernie, she, her, and I identify as a lesbian. Welcome, everyone. So excited to get this chat going. So, without further ado, let's hop into it. So I was curious if each of you could share your own personal stories about how Wynonna Earp has impacted you. And Becky, if you want to go first, you can take it away.
Sure. Well, first I'll give a little bit of history on myself just before I get into how Wynonna affected me. I knew that I was different around the age of 11 or 12, and by 14, I knew what that was. I went through a long period of time where I was in the closet, over 20 years. And then I was actually outed by my sister. The one person that knew, she shared that with my mom. Both my mom and dad grew up in strict Christian households. So for me, I felt that I needed to, of course, hide who I was, and I didn't want to lose my family. During my growing up in my 20s, I became overweight, like by 140 pounds. I started to drink, I started to smoke. I had all these vices to get me through the difficult process of being hidden away, my true self. So after my sister outed me, I actually, my mom accepted me. It took her some time, but we have a great relationship again now. And my dad passed away. So, but anyway, both my sisters and I've come out to all my friends. And it's been it's been a journey. I was 33, I'm 37 now. And basically, why I wanted to do this panel was to just share this story with people. If people feel that they are in a safe place and that they can come out, I want to urge people to do that, because life in the closet is not a life at all. And as long as you can do it safely, like I said, I would urge, and I hope that even if this hits one person, that your life can be so different than what it might be. I hope that it helps. So how Wynonna has affected me, Wynonna Earp in the cast, I found it last year in August. So I'm a pretty new Earper, but I'm crazy about the show. I binge watched it when I found it on Netflix. So then I signed up for social media and I started following all the cast, and I started going to online cons. I met new friends. I've got friends from all over the world now. Um, Now, like, I wear my Representation Matters t-shirt. Like, I'm proud. I'm prouder of who I am now. I've lost over 100 pounds. I quit smoking. I quit drinking. And so much of this is due to the show, because I just found a new sense of myself, and I saw myself represented on TV, and it just gave me strength and courage. I got my first girlfriend last year, and I contribute that to the show as well. Just gave me confidence that I could go out there and meet somebody. Um, Basically, the show hasn't just changed my life; it's changed my soul, I would say. I'm a better person. I'm a stronger person. and my life is amazing now. So just the show has enhanced my life incredibly, and I'm so thankful I found it. And that's my story.
That's
Thank
so
you.
awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And congratulations on everything you just talked about. That's truly incredible. Someone in the chat says, "Congrats on the first girlfriend." That's amazing.
Thank you. It was very nice. It's over now, but it was awesome.
Yeah. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So let's see. Oh my God, today's been a whirlwind. So my story, it's pretty boring, but I just want to put it out there that everyone's journey is different, and just because yours might be a little more calm, whatever way that means, that journey is still completely valid. Um, for me, so long story short, I went to this hippy dippy camp in upstate New York in the United States. And I realized that I just wasn't into a lot of things that like your stereotypical woman identified individual would be into as they start becoming a teenager. I was always like the Hot Wheels, trucks, I hate wearing a dress type of person. And so it was around when I was starting high school that I realized I wasn't straight. So I said, okay, I would like to identify as bisexual for like a year or two. And then through conversations with friends and at school, I basically quickly realized that I was gay. Um, and, you know, fortunately, I have a mom that when I came home, I was like, hey, I need to really talk to you about something. And she was like, okay. And mind you, she was in like the kitchen putting together dinner. And I said, okay, so I want to talk to you about how I think I might be gay and I don't want you to react badly. And I just want to have a talk with you. And she literally took the potatoes out of the oven and she was like, okay, I just need 20 minutes to like finish making dinner and then we can talk. So it was pretty, you know, set in stone from there in terms of acceptance. My family was pretty chill. They kind of had an okay, cool. So like, what do we want to do now? And I was like, I don't know. Um, However, you know, I have been out of the closet, generally speaking, for a little over a decade. I'm 25, pretty much. But something that's interesting is that while I knew for a fact over these years that I was gay, I never actually sat myself down to think about it with myself, to think about it with friends, to even think about it with a therapist until I graduated college and started graduate school at New York University. I never really knew how to integrate myself into the LGBTQ plus community. And before my graduate studies, I always felt like an oddball within the community because I had no clue how I was supposed to be or what I was supposed to do as a good, you know, as like a good representative of someone in the LGBTQ plus community. And so this is something I've been really having to wrestle with to figure out how do I want to portray my identity as a gay person with a bunch of other identities in our world today. And it kind of bleeds into Wynonna Earp just because what I love about Wynonna Earp, especially with the LGBTQ plus representation, is that there is no huge conversation. You know, there's no huge, oh my God, what is your whole backstory behind everything? While having those kind of conversations is important, you know, I think through the quips and through all of the little dialogue and body language throughout, it really shows that you don't always need to have this big fanfare type of representation. And sometimes, you know, the way that I want to carry myself is through the conversations that I have with people and through the normal portrayal of care that someone has for you. Um, you know, so like, for instance, I actually broke up with someone a little over a year ago, and on one hand, people could have been like, oh, okay, you had this girlfriend. Okay, now tell me all about this other stuff. No, it kind of reminded me of Wynonna Earp and how, you know, despite the little rifts between Waverly and Nicole, I mean, Wynonna, Doc, and everyone would kind of just casually support, like, oh, you know that she or adores you back, or okay, there is no way that we're gonna like let her die in season 2. And so just simple conversations like that has just been showing me that you can be such a big part of the community in such small ways. And I think that we need to start valuing those small, sometimes unseen portrayals of, where I fit into the community, Wynonna Earp or otherwise.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I like you said, Wynonna Earp has truly taken a different approach to LGBTQ representation, and it's taken it somewhere that it's never been and a place that it needs to be. Yeah, so who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Go for it.
So I came out when I was 19, so I'm 23 now. Took a while for me to sort of get to that point. I realized I always knew I was different, and I was always different compared to everyone else. And when I was about in third year of high school, that's when I started to realize I was like, all right, there was like that light bulb moment. It just goes off in your head, and I was like, right, okay, that makes sense. And it wasn't like I was ashamed. I was like pretty cool with it, but I suppressed it anyway because I was like, oh God, I live in a small town and I'm different to everyone else. And I got bullied at school quite a bit for just being that kind of lonely kid. So I kind of like didn't want to fuel their fire, give them more reasons to sort of bully me. So I just suppressed it for a few years. I didn't really know how to handle my emotions. And I just sort of always sat in my room. If I wasn't out playing sport, that was kind of my escape. That's where I felt like I could just fit in somewhere. If I wasn't playing my sport, I was just in my room and I just felt awful. And I could get triggered quite easily and get angry and stuff. And it's just because I just didn't know what to do. So after I left school, me and my best pal went to a Tegan and Sarah concert. And it was and it was the first time I was in a big room filled with queer people. And I was like, no matter what happens, there's going to be all these people that are going to be here for me. So the week after, I came out to my mum, then I came out to my dad and my sister, and they were always like, they were all really supportive. They were like, oh, we knew anyway. But they were all so supportive, and I'm really thankful for that. I came out to my best friend as well, and I said, oh, I'm gay, and like, oh, me too. So that was quite a nice wee moment as well. And it was just sort of like this huge weight was lifted. But I was still in this small town though, so there was this thing. I was like, right, I've struggled with this, so I wanted to go out and help people that were in my town that were probably feeling the way I was feeling. Because if you're any different from where I'm from, you're like that target almost. You just feel like there's this big spotlight on you, and you're like, everyone knows I'm different. So I started doing a few sort of projects myself and speaking to sort of local politicians and making sure that they were going to dedicate a project or something to make sure the town was a safe space and stuff. And I was a founding member of a LGBT youth group in this town as well, just to sort of give people that place, just talk to people that got them. So that kind of brings on to Wynonna Earp, and it's mad because it's like the first thing I saw myself representative in such a positive way. Because beforehand, there's this TV show that I kind of clinged on to because it was the only thing I had. But it was, the representation was awful. Just everything that happened to these queer characters, just everything went wrong for them. They were either ill, they were either flown to a different country. It was just everything wrong was happening to them, and it felt awful. And I found Wynonna after the second episode of season 1 aired. And I was on YouTube and everyone was going mental about this one scene in the bar. Like everyone was just going wild about it. And I was like, right, I need to find out what this is. And it was just like, I would just sit there and watch it because it was just like so powerful to just see them come together and just live their life and not have to worry about anyone else. And it's like, they both kind of helped me in different ways. So like the character Nicole kind of taught me I can be this strong queer woman. And then Waverly taught me like it was okay to take my time. Every journey is different. Like, we don't have to rush into everything. And then the two of them together in this small town, I was like, oh, maybe I'll be okay as well. So it's like a huge impact they've had on me, and I honestly can't thank them enough, like, for what they've done. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We love Tegan and Sarah here, so deeply appreciate it. And then Abby, how about you?
Yeah, so I was like coming to terms with who I was for about a year before I came out as gay. So I came out to my close family and friends 2 years ago now. But I still didn't really like accept myself, and came out as I was trying to like seek validation from others, I think. And through them accepting me, I thought I would then accept myself. But that's not really how it went. So I was out for a while and just out to these people who I was really close with. I'm still not out like widely. I don't hide it anymore, so I'm taking steps in the right direction. But no, Wynonna played a huge role in my journey. I found the show about a year ago now, and the representation on the show showed me that I was okay as I am, and that I can be confident and loved as a gay woman and stuff. So since finding the show, my confidence has grown an awful lot and has allowed me to be sat here doing this panel today as well. And yeah, so it's played a huge role in my journey, and I'm so grateful for that, which is why I wanted to do this panel today and kind of talk about the power of representation.
Oh, I'm glad it brought you here today, and I'm so glad you're on this panel. I might just do my little thing real quick, if that's okay with everyone. I was very similar to Izzy. I was the type of child who Hot Wheels, no Barbie dolls, hated wearing dresses, didn't like pink, what many people would describe as a tomboy. And then I had suspicions towards the beginning of high school, but I was like, we're gonna not talk about that right now. And because I grew up in a rather conservative town, so I was just like, I don't want to touch that yet. But then when I went off to college, funny enough, NYU, when I was 18, 19, I came out to a lot of my friends, and then it wasn't until 2020 that I came out to my family, which was last year, and that was like 2 or 3 years after I came out to my friends. Where Wynonna Earp comes into play, I found it during quarantine, and quarantine has been a rather lonely experience. It's been strange and tough not being around queer people, and not being around the folks I connect with so deeply, and being able to watch this show and feel as if I had queer people around me, even if it was through a screen, felt really, really lovely. Nicole's character is one like I've never seen on television before. I've never related to anyone so much in my entire life. And yeah, I mean, I still have some family members who are not as accepting, and are definitely quite vocal about it. But with the other support that I do have from my family members who support me, and my friends, and Wynonna Earp in this community, it's truly made any of those moments very small in comparison to the great moments I've had. So, once again, thank you all for sharing. I love hearing people's different stories because truly everyone's journey is so incredibly different. So I think what I want to talk about next is LGBTQ awareness and support. So I think I kind of started talking about a little bit COVID and how it's impacted the community. Is there anyone who kind of wants to start off, even if it's not the COVID, but just wants to kick off this topic?
I can start. I had actually picked a different topic to discuss, and I did some research into it, so I'm going to go through that. When I was trying to figure out a subject I wanted to talk about, there was something that kept popping up in my searches, and that was the suicide rate of transgendered people. And I think that that's something that everybody needs to be aware of, and that it's very important. So I read that up to 65% of transgendered people have had suicidal ideation, and up to 32% have actually tried to commit suicide. There weren't any statistics on how many were actually successful in that. And then I read some more statistics. One is that up to 60% have been physically assaulted, and up to 66% have been sexually assaulted. And let's see, part of that is being physically abused or assaulted by their significant other. So I wanted to bring up this subject today and just share with everyone that we need to do better with our transgender family, be there for them, support them, love them, talk about it, get the conversation going, get it out there, and do what we can for our family, because they need us. And with these statistics, it's insane, and we need to do what we can.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those numbers. As I think it's important for all of us to definitely acknowledge it and be aware of it. And if there's anyone out there who is struggling with any of this, there are lots of resources to contact. The Trevor Project is a really, really wonderful organization that's specifically for LGBTQ plus youth who just need someone to talk to, truly. I agree. It's something that we need to, particularly within the transgender youth community. It's something that needs to be talked about much, much more often. And I'm glad that we kind of have this platform to acknowledge it and speak to it a bit. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. I'm curious what everyone else wants to touch upon.
Yeah, I could go if you want.
Yeah, please.
So we've got quite a few things here in Scotland for sort of helping LGBTQ plus people. Our government have done quite a good job. There's a few things here and there that obviously need fixed, but we have a First Minister that actually joined in Pride Parade. She's led a Pride Parade. She's spoken twice in opening Pride, which is quite good. So we know that over here we have people that actually care. So we've got there's LGBT Youth Scotland. They're a big group that do a lot of events. They have sort of sessions to just help people sort of understand and know that there's someone there for them. We've got LGBT Health and Wellbeing, and that's a helpline. They've been doing a lot of work during the pandemic, because we know that there could be a lot of people in sort of toxic households being forced to stay in them. So they're there to sort of help them get through that. We've got the Equality Network as well, that do quite a lot of good work as well. One that I really like is called Leap Sport. So they provide sport sessions for people who identify as LGBTQ, and it's a range of sports, and they do it all over Scotland, and they have these sporting sessions. They have tournaments, and it just gets people out and about, getting physical, and it's great for your mental health as well. I really promote it within the community, because I think it's just a great way to meet people that go through the same thing as you and just sort of get active again. And I think a big thing is research. I think the more research we do, the more awareness we can spread. So I've done at uni, I've been doing my dissertation on the sort of trans experience in sport in Scotland. because we did a class once in one of my modules, and the words that were coming out of some of these people's mouths that were in my class was just, it was horrible. It made me feel ill. Like, it was just the way they were talking about trans athletes just was horrendous. So I've made it my mission to go and hear what the experience is of trans people and sort of make that more aware that we need to do a lot more to help them, because some of the stories I'm hearing, it's just heartbreaking, like that they're not got that support. And I think, yeah, that research, just getting the research out there, getting the numbers out there, and just making sure people respect us. Because I was at a good panel the other week. I was listening in, and they said it was titled "Don't Seek Acceptance, Seek Respect," which I thought was brilliant, because it's like, yeah, people can accept us and go, well, we've got marriage equality, why can't you be happy? But we should be seeking these people to respect us, and they fight also for us to get the exact same rights as everyone else. But, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. I mean, it's always interesting, I think, as someone who lives in, at least for me, someone who lives in the United States, to hear what it's like around the world. Because it's something that I do, like you said, like it research, like I do need to do more research on, to learn about what, globally, what the fight looks like, you know? And congratulations on your dissertation. That is extremely exciting.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, it's good.
Good. Abby or Izzy, do you have anything you'd like to throw out?
I do want to say that I just really agree with, excuse me, with the notion that, like, yes, you can pass a certain act / law, bill, whatever it is, but that's only the beginning of what we do, right? Whatever is passed is basically just saying, yes, legally at the state or the federal level, again, here in the United States, it's like, yes, that becomes law, but then you have the whole other pool of people's attitudes, and again, kind of going back to how people conduct themselves and treat others. I think that's a very delicate yet important area that we should really be focusing on. And that also includes tying sources and funds to help promote, say, quality mental health services for those who are LGBTQ+, investing in education and conversations that people are afraid to have. And those conversations suck sometimes, but I think that there's just so much that laws and bills can do. They get the logistics done, but then you have to connect to, like, the people and the communities that you're talking with. So I just wanted to, like, highlight that valid point about, yeah, you can have a Marriage Equality Act or something similar, but then you have to think about next steps. You have to be proactive, and I think that, here in the U.S. especially, it's like, I like to think that we're a very, very reactive country with a lot of things, and I think we need to be focused more on, okay, we want to do this, but then what are 10 steps down the line for making sure that we can sustain whatever policy we want to put in place.
Absolutely. It's so much more than just federal change. It's societal change that we need as well. I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you for kind of adding on to that, because it's so true. And then Abby, how about you?
Yeah, mine's what I wanted to talk about. It's kind of unrelated to, yeah, but no, just because representation has played a huge role in my journey, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit more, I think. Because when it's done right, like on Winona, right, it can have far-reaching effects both for those people represented and wider society, because it kind of is a form of education and tells people perhaps how to react to people and situations that they may not encounter in their everyday lives. But I think there are also a lot of issues with representation, and we are getting better, I think, slowly, especially in the parts of the world that we live in. But I was reading the GLAAD report on LGBTQ plus representation from 2019, and there was some interesting stuff that I wanted to kind of bring out. I think representation of lesbian characters has now increased over the past few years and is now equal with that of gay characters, which I thought was interesting and steps in the right direction. But when you look at representation of bisexual characters, it drops dramatically, and then you look at representation of pansexual, non-binary, transgender characters, and it's almost nothing. I think the first time I've ever seen a pansexual character on television was in the Wynonna episode last night. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on that, and all the representation is good. It's also predominantly within white characters as well, so I think it's important to recognize how far we've come, but also acknowledge that we've got a long way to go and that people are fighting different battles in different places.
Yeah, definitely. That GLAAD report, every year it comes out, it's always so interesting to see what's in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why the queer community does gravitate towards Wynonna Earp so much. It's because it's positive representation. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that, like, it's positive representation, but there's still so much more that can be done, you know? And I'm seeing folks in the chat saying, like, asexual characters, non-binary characters, Arrow Ace rep, absolutely, all of these things, they don't really exist in media, which is why any little bit of positive representation I think folks get, it's why we kind of, like, swarm towards it. We're just like, please, more. And positive representation is so incredibly important, because it doesn't only help the folks who identify with those characters, it helps the folks who don't have that experience see a little bit more into that, what it's like. It makes these folks that people might not agree with or support, it makes them look more human. It makes them look more relatable. And that's super important in families and friendships everywhere, to kind of build on and start the discussion about sexuality and gender, and everything like that. So thank you for bringing that up, Abby. That's super important to acknowledge and discuss. So now I'm gonna ask the chat, if you have any questions, bring them on. I know I saw one question earlier that I would like to go to, because I thought it was a wonderful question. They asked, if a parent has a suspicion that their child is gay, but the child hasn't come out, do you think it's the parent's responsibility to ask? Meaning, if they are in fact gay, should the parent make sure that they understand their they know they understand their feelings, and reassure them that everything is okay? Just needing another perspective. I would love to have had some reassurance early on. And great question. And I don't know if does anyone have any immediate thoughts on this?
I think it depends on the person, really. I know for me, because I suppressed it for quite a while, when I came out to my mum actually sat down with me and was like, kind of talked me through it, and then I was like, right, okay, and then I felt comfortable to come out. But that I think that for me it was because I didn't like talking about these things in front of people before I came out. So again, I think it just depends on the person, you know, just gauge their feelings and stuff, and maybe subtly watch things like Wynonna, like see their reaction to characters, you know, just subtle things just to identify, I think, was also a good idea. But yeah.
Yeah, it's. I agree with you. It's about kind of gauging that individual's need at that time, um, and that just comes from listening. I think it's a lot of listening. Of course, I don't have any kids. I am 23, so I don't want to say that I have all of the knowledge in the world about this topic. Um, but I do believe it's a lot of being prepared to listen and understand and learn. Um, I think. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything else to add to that?
I was gonna say that along with kind of gauging the situation, um, you know, I think depending on how, I don't want to use the word in tune, but I basically just want to say, like, if you're someone who is really good slash who wants to get better at pattern and behavioral recognition, um, if you are the parental figure, and maybe you've noticed some changes in your child, whether how they're acting or how they're speaking, sometimes the best thing that we can do is, well, sorry, I'm saying we as if I have a child. I also do not have a child, but um, nonetheless, really just kind of approaching the individual and maybe just starting by just having a general conversation of like, how are you, or how have things been going? Obviously, surface level conversations are, sometimes bleh, but it's always crucial to be like, hey, so I just wanted to let you know that I've been kind of recognizing some things, or I've noticed that maybe you're not as talkative as usual, or you kind of like want to stay to yourself more often. I'm not gonna pry, but just know that I'm here, because sometimes the best things that we can do is not a lot. Not because we don't want to help, but I think for a lot of people in our community, sometimes it's hard for us to identify our own support systems, even while we're in it. And the best thing you can do is just put yourself in a position of showing that you're there to support this, human being who is probably a fantastic human being, and just trying to process whatever identity that they're trying to figure out.
Absolutely. Um, there are two more questions I want to get to in the chat that are really great and I would love to talk about. Um, one of them is, what was your defining moment in Wynonna Earp that made you feel seen as an LGBTQ plus person? I don't know if anyone has immediate thoughts about this. I wish I had Nicole's confidence that she had in the first scene that she appears in. Um, but I think what it is when Waverly and Nicole are in Dawes' motel room after he passes away, and Nicole is sitting there and talking about, like, she feels it's all her fault. And in that moment, though it's not specifically about her being queer, it's a moment that I was like, this is a queer person experiencing things that I've felt before. So for me, like, that was it. Where I was like, you've done it, Wynonna Earp. You've done it. I see myself. It's a mirror. I'm curious about the rest of you, if you've had any of those moments while watching the show.
For me, I can't say one defining moment, but overall, Nicole's character and just being who she is and confident, and living in a small town. That was a big part of my journey, was being in a small town, and just her confidence. While I don't have that kind of confidence, just seeing her and that representation, that really just gave me everything right there. And I knew that this was an amazing show, and had something to offer all of us.
I'm thinking immediately to the beginning of season 2, when we're introduced to Liza and Winona is basically like, okay, let's just all sit around like this tiny little wooden table and just do basic introductions. And when Winona, and I'm really bad at memorizing exact quotes, so sorry, but when Winona is basically like, yeah, okay, this is my sister Waverly, and Waverly just simply smiles and she's like, girlfriend. Like, that's it. And that's so beautiful because there's so much power and danger, but there's a lot more power in putting, for some people, right, such as myself, there is a lot of power and pride in being able to call someone my girlfriend, in addition to calling them by like their actual name in public, and just simply having people know and then not feeling pressure to do all of these again, right, all of these big extravagant forms of like PDA and stuff. I think that was very important because it was a very, very simple way for the cast and the crew to acknowledge that, yeah, Waverly has a girlfriend. Great, they know who the girlfriend is. Great, now let's just keep getting back to fighting with demons. And I say this just because I was in a relationship where, long story short, it was sour from the beginning, and I was literally told that I couldn't use the word girlfriend or partner or anything, and literally all I wanted to do was say that once and feel good about it for myself and for us. And so that simple moment of recognition, I think, really set the stage for how I want to simply put it out there that I have someone special. And in Waverly's case, I think that that moment is one of many that kind of sets the stage for how she just simply talks about who she is through talking about other people in such a very succinct way.
Absolutely.
I think for me, it was season 1 in Nedley's office, because it's the first time. It's like that leap of faith almost, and it's like to face your fear and actually do that and admit those feelings and stuff. It was just, for me, it was really powerful because I wasn't out when that scene came out, and then we're just sitting there, and I was like, it was just like, oh my god, like, and it's funny because I was sitting watching that, and across the room from me was my great aunt, who's from Florida, who's quite homophobic, and I was just sitting there watching this, and it was like such a powerful thing because it's like, no, I will be all right, and just as well, like as everyone's saying, just Nicole's whole character, just that confidence, just be who you are, and just, you know, not fear anything, as well, has been a huge impact for me.
Absolutely.
And for me, I would also say Nicole's character had a huge role, but if I'm thinking of a specific moment, I would go to the Earp sister moment in season 1, where I think Nicole's been shot, and there's just like that look between Waverly and Winona, and acknowledging that Nicole is Waverly's girlfriend, and that's kind of Waverly coming out to Nicole. And I think that just the acceptance that Winona showed in that moment, and the kind of unconditional love, and just that it didn't have to be a big thing. And I think that was quite similar to my coming out to my sister as well. So seeing that on screen as well it was quite a big moment, and it's definitely stuck out to me.
Yeah, I love that. And Winona says to her, like, you finally picked a smart one. And then Waverly looks up and Winona winks at her. It's so heartwarming. Um, Here's another question that I think is super important that we discuss. What would your advice be to a person who would want to feel more connected to the LGBTQIA plus community, especially now during the pandemic, and such things as in-person events like Pride, etc., aren't possible? I don't know if anyone wants to kick that question off.
For myself, I will say that I recently joined an organization. It's called SheFest out of San Diego, and I live in Seattle. So, but they welcomed me with Open Arms, and we have monthly meetings. And I just think everything is online right now. Any groups you can join, Twitter is great if you want to meet other ERPers. That's how I've met several friends. And I think there's a lot of opportunity if you just open yourself up, do some Google searches, and you can find a community to join. And yeah, they'll be there for you.
I really agree with that. Disclaimer, I am not super good at Twitter. So I'm kind of bad at connecting with people on that front. But I think that the fact that, we're all part of the ERPer community and that there is this common identity amongst a lot of us, I bet, I would really, really think about what kind of activities, albeit over Zoom, that you find fun to do with your IRL friends or people that you knew in person pre-COVID, and just kind of put it out there on Twitter. Just be like, hey, for instance, I'm really, really bored and I want to have a random computer game night thing. If any ERPers want to join, let's put something together. It's kind of like networking in the job / work world, and like it can seem really, really scary to reach out to strangers, but I think the really good thing about being on Twitter is that everyone has some kind of anonymity. So when you all meet up or talk, you're eventually going to see each other's faces. You're eventually going to have automatic connection points related to Winona Earp where you're like, oh, I found that really, really funny. So the too long don't read version of that is lean on your ERPer community and Twitter or whatever social media you use, and then think about activities you usually like to do with your friends online and apply that to really cool new people that you don't know, but you love ERPing together.
Absolutely. I also want to add that media can be so powerful. It's very clear. I mean, there are hundreds of Winona Earp conventions just for this single show held around the world, and I think that just shows like how powerful media can be. So, because I know there are folks who maybe aren't ready to take that leap into actually reaching out to people yet, or putting themselves out there. I think a great thing to do would be just to dive into a bunch, find some queer books to read online, find fan fiction, find shows, find movies, and kind of take it from there. Seeing yourself on a screen, on a page, can do wonders for your connection to your identity, but also to the community as a whole, because you recognize that, oh, this was made by someone who also had this experience, and I also had this experience. And the most important thing to remember throughout all of this is that you are not alone. There are so many folks out there who are so willing to open their arms out and give you a virtual hug for now, because we can't in person, to support you and to share their love. There are so many people out there. So I think that's a really big thing is like you said, Izzy, like lean on your ERPer community as well. Do not be afraid to reach out. I'll tweet later on so that you folks can see what my Twitter is, so that you know that that's also an open space for anyone who wants to come and talk. I will be more than happy to welcome you with open arms. Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
No, I think like doing things when you're ready is as well so important. If you're not ready, don't force yourself. You can do things like you say, read a book or find something to watch and sort of engage that way. And when you're ready, everyone's going to be here and we're going to welcome you. We're a community that support each other, and we'll be here when you're ready, basically.
Absolutely. So we have about 9-ish minutes left. Are there any organizations or resources that anyone would like to share for folks who maybe need support or are just looking to learn more? Does anyone have any resources to share?
I've got one from over here.
Yes.
There's a campaign called TIE Campaign, so it's Time for Inclusive Education, it's called. It's this group of queer people who've basically done loads of research, and they've actually managed to get in the government that there is help for LGBT people in schools, and that there's LGBT history taught, there is role models, there's equality education, and that they do this research that's then taken to schools to stop prejudice. And they've actually, all those things that they've done for schools, like in terms of the education, it's actually a world first that this is actually going to happen in schools in Scotland, which I think is brilliant. Like, this wee country has managed to pull all this together and make this like historic thing happen. So people like that are out there. I think as well, like in terms of the Wynonna Earp as well, like, you know, you've got that community behind you as well if you're watching that. And I think what I love about it so much is it's two queer women playing the characters, and I think that's so important. And the fact that Kat, Dom, and Emily care so much about these characters as well. It's nothing feels forced. You don't fear that something bad's going to happen to them. You know, they're there, and they support us as much as we support them as well.
Thank you. I know I called out earlier the Trevor Project. I'll make sure that all of links to all these organizations are tweeted out on the Ghost River Triangle Twitter so that everyone can take a look at these wonderful organizations. And if you have any organizations that you know of, all the folks watching at home, feel free to reply to that tweet and mention them, because any and all things are appreciated. I want to first off thank everyone in the chat who has been so incredibly nice. And they've all, this whole time, have been thanking us for sharing our stories, and for being open and for holding this space. So a round of applause to you for being you, unapologetically you, and feeling comfortable to tell your stories. It means a lot to all of the folks who are now saying thanks for sharing. Thank you so much. You're all amazing. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and I want to thank all of you again. It's not easy to go on a platform and talk about these things. So I am so grateful that you took the time and that you wanted to participate in something like this. It's super important. Yeah. People are clapping in the chat now. Does anyone have any last words before we end the stream?
Can I just go back to the support thing quickly?
Please do. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm 18, I'm in my last year of high school, so I just wanted to say, for people who are younger like me, I know my school has a gender sexuality alliance, or some schools call them gay straight alliances, and I think for younger queer people that can be a really good resource to connect with other queer people and allies, and can be a good source of information, and can also like lead you to other support and organizations if you need further help as well. So just would encourage people to reach out to those groups and find support systems at school and things as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Those are, finding communities within schools for younger folks is also just so wildly important. So thank you for also mentioning that. This is our last panel of the day. this is our last panel of Saturday. We made it through Saturday, everyone. I hope you've all had a wonderful time, and just as an amazing a time that as I have. That wasn't proper. It's fine. We're all friends here. I've had an incredible time speaking to all of the panelists today, and I hope you've all had a wonderful time too. Stay tuned for day 2 tomorrow. We have some other wonderful panels coming up. We have 2 more cast panels, a fan fiction panel, a disability panel, a mental health panel. So please, we are so excited for tomorrow. Thank you all again, everyone at home, everyone who's watching, everyone who's not watching, everyone who's currently on your screen. Thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you folks tomorrow. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.